Deep in the vastness of space, an ancient warning beacon pulsed steadily, its crimson light casting an eerie glow against the backdrop of stars. For millennia, it had broadcasted the same message in thousands of languages: warning, quarantine zone. Earth system. Do not approach. Captain Reed of the Galactic scout ship Venture stared at the holographic display showing the mysterious beacon. His species, the Aldarians, prided themselves on being the most advanced civilization in the known galaxy. They had conquered diseases, mastered faster-than-light travel, and colonized hundreds of worlds. But this was different. Analysis complete, Captain, announced First Officer Wilson, her silvery skin reflecting the control panel's lights. The beacon appears to be over 10,000 years old, yet its power source remains at 99.9% efficiency. The technology is beyond our understanding. Reed's antenna twitched with curiosity. Throughout his career, he had never encountered technology that surpassed Aldarian capabilities. What about the planet itself? Earth appears to be inhabited by a primitive species, Wilson replied, bringing up a detailed scan. They've barely reached their moon. Their technology is crude: internal combustion engines, primitive nuclear fission, early digital systems. They're centuries behind us. Reed drummed his fingers on the armrest of his command chair. The Aldarian High Council had specifically tasked him with finding new civilizations to guide into their empire. A primitive world would be perfect, especially one that other species clearly feared. The warning beacon must be from some long-dead civilization, Reed declared confidently. Probably trying to protect their experiment or colony. Well, whatever they were studying is now fair game under galactic law. Those who ignored that warning were about to learn why. The black ships moved with impossible grace, their surfaces rippling like liquid metal. Inside the Venture, alarms blared as the ship's systems began shutting down one by one. Captain Reed watched helplessly as his supposedly advanced technology failed under the influence of an invisible force. All weapons offline, Wilson reported, her fingers dancing frantically across dead control panels. Engines non-responsive. Communications, wait, we're receiving a transmission from Earth. The main screen flickered to life, showing a human in a plain black uniform. No rank insignia, no decorations, just a small badge that bore the letters FCP, First Contact Protocol. Aldarian vessel, the human spoke in perfect Aldarian, his expression neutral but his eyes hard as steel. You have entered restricted space despite clear warnings. Your arrogance is noted. Your technology has been disabled. You will now learn why Earth remains protected. Reed's antenna drooped in submission. We meant no harm. The Aldarian Empire simply wishes to guide your species to greatness. The human's laugh was cold. Guide us? Your civilization just mastered faster-than-light travel. We achieved that 10,000 years ago and moved beyond it. Those warning beacons? We built them. The technology you couldn't comprehend? That's our equivalent of a traffic sign. Through the Venture's viewport, Reed watched as one of the black ships transformed, parts of it breaking apart and reassembling into something new. It wasn't a ship at all, it was a swarm of billions of nanomachines, all working in perfect harmony. The reason Earth appears primitive, the human continued, is because we choose to live simply on our homeworld. But make no mistake, we are far from primitive. What you see as our civilization is merely a preserve, a reminder of our origins. The real Earth, the one you can't detect, exists in dimensions your species hasn't even discovered yet. Wilson stepped forward, her scientific curiosity overcoming her fear. But we've been watching Earth for years. Their conflicts, their pollution, their divided nations. A choice, the human replied. We remember our history, play out our dramas, and live as we choose. Meanwhile, our real work continues on levels you cannot perceive. We are humanity's gardeners, tending to the Earth preserve while the rest of our species explores realities you cannot imagine. The black ships began to pulse with energy. Inside the Venture, data screens came to life, showing images that made Reed's heart stop, vast cities in dimensional spaces, to never return. When you report back, know this, we allow other species to grow at their own pace. But if you threaten our preserve, if you ignore our warnings again. He smiled, and somehow that smile was more terrifying than any threat could be. The Venture's systems suddenly reactivated. The black ships began to fade from normal space, their work done. The last thing Reed heard was the human's voice, "Welcome to your first real contact with Earth, Captain. You might be advanced enough to travel between stars, but you just learned an important lesson, there's always a bigger fish. Remember it." As the Venture limped away from Earth's solar system, Reed stared at the warning beacons with new eyes. They weren't warnings to protect Earth from the galaxy. They were warnings to protect the galaxy from truths it wasn't ready to comprehend. And his empire had just learned exactly where they stood in the grand scheme of things, somewhere near the bottom, looking up at heights they never knew existed. The Aldarian High Council chamber erupted in chaos as Captain Reed's report concluded. The massive holographic display showed the data downloaded from Earth's mysterious defenders, and it shattered centuries of Aldarian superiority in mere minutes. Impossible. Supreme Chancellor Drake slammed his fist on the crystalline table. No species could achieve such advancement without us detecting them. We have watched Earth for decades. Reed stood firm, his antenna still drooping from the humbling encounter. The humans explained that, Chancellor. What we see on Earth is essentially a living museum. The real human civilization exists beyond our ability to perceive or understand. The learning module from the black ships had begun sharing its knowledge with the Aldarian networks. Screens throughout the chamber displayed concepts that challenged everything they thought they knew about physics, consciousness, and reality itself. Look at this, Dr. Mills, the Empire's leading scientist, pointed to one display. They don't just travel between stars, they fold space itself. They don't just build computers, they weave consciousness into the fabric of reality. Everything we've achieved, everything we're proud of, it's like comparing stone tools to a fusion reactor. Chancellor Drake's face darkened with rage and fear. Then we must act. The Empire cannot appear weak. If these humans possess such power, we should gather our fleet and dash, Chancellor, Reed interrupted, breaking protocol in his desperation. You don't understand. The entire Aldarian fleet wouldn't even register as a threat. Those black ships? They weren't ships at all. They were autonomous security systems, like leaving a guard dog to watch your house. We never met the real defenders of Earth. The learning module projected a new image, a map of the galaxy. Countless points of light appeared, each representing a human observation post. The Aldarians realized with growing horror that they had never been alone. Humanity had been watching, monitoring, quietly ensuring that younger species developed naturally. There's more, Reed continued, his voice shaking. Those warning beacons? They're not just signs. They're mercy. The humans believe that some truths, some technologies, some understandings are too dangerous for unprepared minds. They don't want to harm us, they're protecting us from knowledge we're not ready to handle. Dr. Mills studied another data stream, her eyes widening. According to this, humanity reached our current level of technology over 15,000 years ago. They experienced something they call the Great Awakening, a transformation so profound that they had to create the Earth preserve just to remember who they once were. The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The mighty Aldarian Empire, which had thought itself the peak of evolution, was nothing more than a young species taking its first steps into a universe far stranger and more wonderful than they had imagined. Chancellor Drake slowly sat down, his anger replaced by understanding. The humans, they could have destroyed us. conquered us. Instead, they chose to teach us. Yes, Reed replied. The learning module contains a message for species who ignore the warnings. It says, your ambition is natural. Your pride is understandable. But there are deeper waters in the universe than you know. Swim carefully, grow wisely, and remember, evolution isn't just about technology. It's about understanding when not to use it. As the council digested this humbling truth, a final image appeared, Earth, blue and beautiful, surrounded by its warning beacons. But now they saw it differently. Not as a primitive world to be conquered, but as something far more precious, a reminder that even gods need to remember their beginnings. The Aldarian Empire had wanted to guide humanity to greatness. Instead, humanity had shown them how far they had yet to go. And in the depths of space, the warning beacons continued their eternal vigil, protecting both Earth and the galaxy, from truths they weren't yet ready to bear. News spread quickly through the galactic community. The Aldarian Empire, once proud and expansionist, had withdrawn all colonial operations. Their ships retreated to their core systems. Their diplomatic corps, usually aggressive in pushing for Aldarian supremacy, fell silent. The reason? A simple report about Earth, transmitted across all frequencies. In the Centarian Trade Hub, representatives from 100 species gathered to discuss this unprecedented development. Among them stood observer Thomas, appearing as a simple human merchant but watching the proceedings with ancient eyes. The Aldarians have gone mad, declared the Proximan ambassador, his crystalline form shimmering with agitation. They speak of humans living in impossible dimensions, of technology that defies reality itself. Perhaps, added the Rigelian speaker, her tentacles weaving patterns of concern, we should investigate Earth ourselves. The Aldarians were always prone to dramatic exaggeration. Thomas smiled quietly. They hadn't noticed that every warning beacon around Earth had doubled in number overnight. The trading hub's main display activated, showing the latest sensor data from Earth's solar system. The gathered species watched as a civilian transport ship, ignoring all warnings just as the Aldarians had, approached Earth's orbit. This time, there were no black ships. Instead, the transport simply stopped existing. Then reappeared a light year away, its crew unharmed but thoroughly shaken. In their ship's computer, they found a simple message: the previous warning was ignored. This was your species' only second chance. Thomas stood, drawing the attention of the gathered ambassadors. Perhaps, he said softly, you're asking the wrong questions. Instead of wondering what humanity is hiding, ask yourselves why they choose to preserve their past. The Proximan ambassador's crystalline surface flickered. You seem well informed about these humans. Consider this, Thomas continued, ignoring the implied question. A species reaches such heights of advancement that they can reshape reality. They can exist in dimensions beyond normal space. They can think thoughts that would shatter lesser minds. What happens to their humanity then? The chamber fell silent. Earth isn't a primitive world needing protection, Thomas explained. It's a self-imposed sanctuary. A living memorial to what it means to be human. To struggle. To grow. To face limitations and overcome them step by step. The Rigelian speaker's tentacles went still. You speak as if. The Earth you see, Thomas pressed on, with its conflicts, its challenges, its seeming primitive state, it's all carefully maintained. A preserve where humanity remembers its roots. Where children can experience what it meant to be merely human, before we became something else entirely. The assembled ambassadors finally noticed that Thomas's shadow didn't match his form. That the space around him seemed to bend in impossible ways. This is your only warning, he said, his voice now carrying echoes of dimensions they couldn't comprehend. Earth is not protected from you. You are protected from truths you're not ready to understand. Let humanity tend its garden. When you're ready, truly ready, we will welcome you as equals. Thomas vanished, not by moving or fading, but by simply existing somewhere else. The gathered species sat in stunned silence, understanding finally dawning. They had thought Earth was a primitive world surrounded by mysterious guardians. Instead, they had discovered that humanity had become those guardians, watching over their own past and the galaxy's future with equal care. The warning beacons weren't barriers, they were road signs on the path to enlightenment, marking the boundary between what was known and what was not yet ready to be understood. In the endless dark between stars, countless young civilizations looked toward Earth with new eyes, finally understanding that some questions are best left for tomorrow's minds. Deep within Earth's ocean trenches, in a place no conventional sensors could detect, the Preservation Council convened. Here, in chambers that existed in multiple dimensions at once, the guardians of humanity's past made their plans. Director Adams, appearing as both a simple human and a complex pattern of quantum possibilities, addressed the gathering. The Aldarian incident has sparked exactly what we feared, increased attention to Earth. The chamber shifted, showing real-time views of every alien vessel currently studying Earth from beyond the warning beacons. Their numbers had tripled since the Aldarian encounter. Some still think we're primitive, reported Guardian Bell, her form rippling like water. Others believe we're being protected by some ancient, vanished race. Only a few have guessed the truth, that we protect ourselves. The learning module we gave the Aldarians, Adams continued, is spreading faster than expected. Species across 3 galactic arms are now asking questions we didn't plan to answer for another century. The Council's attention turned to a simulation showing possible futures. In most scenarios, the younger race's curiosity led to reckless attempts to breach Earth's defenses. Their minds, unprepared for the truth, would shatter upon contact with humanity's real nature. Perhaps, suggested Guardian Bell, it's time to show them more. A controlled revelation. Adams shook his head, his movement creating ripples in reality itself. Remember why we created the Preserve. When humanity achieved transcendence, we nearly lost ourselves. Only by maintaining this connection to our past, by living part of our existence as we once were, do we remember what it means to be human. The chamber filled with images from Earth's surface, children playing, artists creating, scientists discovering, people living ordinary lives unaware that they were part of humanity's greatest project, the preservation of its soul. The younger races don't understand, Adams explained. They see our warning beacons as barriers to knowledge. They don't realize that knowledge without wisdom destroys. We learned this at great cost. Guardian Bell accessed the quantum archives, displaying humanity's great awakening, the moment when technology and consciousness had merged, when understanding had become infinite, when humanity had nearly lost its humanity in the process. The Earth Preserve isn't just for us, she realized. It's a seed. When other species reach transcendence, they'll need this example. They'll need to know how to remain connected to their origins. The Council reached consensus. The warning beacons would remain. Earth would continue its careful dance of apparent primitiveness. And humanity's greater consciousness would watch, wait, and protect, not just their own past, but the future of all sentient life. As the Council dissolved, its members returning to their duties across dimensions, Adams stood at a window that looked out across both physical space and the quantum realm. Somewhere out there, young species dreamed of reaching the stars, unaware that the greatest challenge wasn't conquering space, it was remaining yourself when you did. The warning beacons pulsed their eternal message, now carrying a deeper truth: Earth wasn't a primitive world needing protection, nor a prize to be won. It was a reminder that no matter how far you evolved, no matter what heights you reached, you must never forget where you came from. And in the vast darkness between the stars, humanity's greater consciousness continued its vigilant watch, guardians not just of Earth, but of the very essence of what it meant to be human. The Preservation Council's worst fears materialized when a joint fleet of 17 species gathered at the edge of Earth's warning beacon network. Their combined armada represented the largest gathering of alien military might in galactic history. "We demand access to humanity's true knowledge," broadcast Fleet Commander Pierce of the Proximan Forces. "No species has the right to hoard advancement. Your warnings will no longer hold us back." In the quantum realm, Director Adams and Guardian Bell watched the gathering storm. "They believe strength in numbers will protect them," Bell observed. "They cannot comprehend that we restrict access to protect them, not ourselves." The alien fleet began their advance, their shields interlocked, their weapons primed. They had spent months studying the Aldarian incident, believing they had found a way to counter humanity's defensive measures. They were wrong. As the fleet crossed the warning barrier, reality itself seemed to pause. The ships hung motionless, frozen between moments. Then, every crew member across all 17 species found themselves standing in what appeared to be a vast amphitheater, their physical bodies still safe aboard their vessels. Before them stood a single human child, playing with wooden blocks. "Watch," echoed Director Adams's voice from everywhere and nowhere. "Watch what happens when a mind touches knowledge it isn't prepared for." The child stacked the blocks higher and higher, each one representing a fundamental law of physics. Then, with gentle care, they removed a single block from the bottom, the one labeled causality. The assembled alien leaders watched in horror as reality fractured around them. They saw civilizations rise and fall in seconds, experienced multiple contradictory timelines simultaneously, felt their consciousness split across infinite possibilities. And this was just one small piece of humanity's understanding. "Now you see," Guardian Bell's voice whispered in their minds. "This is why we maintain the preserve. This is why we live part of our existence as we once were. The human mind can be taught to comprehend these truths, but it must be done slowly, carefully, with wisdom earned through natural growth." The alien commanders found themselves back on their ships, many of them shaking, some weeping from the brief exposure to truths their minds couldn't handle. Their mighty fleet began a rapid retreat, all thoughts of forcing humanity's hand forgotten. But humanity wasn't finished teaching. Every ship's computer received a gift, a small fragment of human knowledge, safely encoded, showing the first steps toward understanding. Not technical data or weapon schematics, but philosophical foundations that would help them grasp why some knowledge must be earned rather than taken. "Return when you're ready," the final message read. "Not with weapons or demands, but with wisdom and patience. Earth's preserve exists to remind us of the path. Walk it with us, step by step, and one day you'll understand why we chose to guard these truths so carefully." The alien fleet disappeared into hyperspace, leaving behind the warning beacons that now held new meaning. They weren't barriers to be overcome, but guardians protecting the galaxy from its own premature ambitions. In the quantum realm, Director Adams turned to Guardian Bell. "They'll return." "Yes," she agreed, "but next time, they'll come to learn rather than take. Sometimes the best way to teach wisdom is to show why it's needed." The Earth Preserve continued its eternal cycle, its seemingly primitive surface concealing the greatest library of knowledge in the galaxy, knowledge that would be shared, but only when its recipients were ready to bear the weight of understanding. 100 years after the failed invasion, a single ship approached Earth's warning beacons. Unlike the military vessels of the past, this one carried representatives from every major galactic civilization. They came not with weapons, but with understanding earned through decades of careful preparation. The ship's commander, Admiral Smith of the newly formed Galactic Unity, stood on his bridge watching the famous warning beacons pulse their ancient message. But this time, his crew didn't see them as barriers, they saw them as guideposts. "We're ready," he broadcast on all frequencies. "We've spent a century learning, growing, preparing our minds. We come seeking wisdom, not power." The response was immediate. The black ships appeared, but they didn't come as intimidating guardians. Instead, they transformed into bridges of light, connecting the alien vessel to a hidden dimension of Earth that had always existed alongside the preserve. As the Unity's ship crossed over, its crew witnessed the true face of humanity. Cities that existed in multiple dimensions at once, thoughts that could reshape reality, and yet, most surprisingly, humans who still chose to live simple lives in the preserve below. Director Adams, now appearing as both energy and matter, welcomed them to humanity's true home. "You've learned the most important lesson," he said. "Power without wisdom destroys. Knowledge without understanding corrupts. But you already knew that, didn't you?" Admiral Smith nodded. "It took us decades to grasp why you maintained the preserve. We thought you were hiding from your past. Instead, you were preserving your future. The preserve isn't just Earth's history," Guardian Bell added, her form shifting between states of reality. "It's a teaching ground. Each generation of humanity spends time there, living as our ancestors did, learning the value of limitations before transcending them." The alien representatives watched in wonder as young humans in the preserve discovered fire, invented wheels, launched rockets, all under the careful watch of their transcendent selves. Each achievement, no matter how small, was celebrated as a vital step on the path to wisdom. "Now," Director Adams announced, "you're ready to begin your own journey. Not to become what we are, that's not the goal. But to find your own path to transcendence while keeping your essence intact." The warning beacons around Earth transformed, their message changing for the first time in millennia. No longer did they warn ships away. Now they guided worthy seekers home, to a place where knowledge and wisdom walked hand in hand. The Earth Preserve continued its eternal cycle, but now with a new purpose. It became a shared classroom for all species, a place where they could remember their own humble beginnings and understand the importance of earning each step forward. And humanity, in all its forms, maintained its vigil, not as intimidating guardians, but as patient teachers. They had learned long ago that the greatest power wasn't in reshaping reality or transcending dimensions. It was in remembering who you were, even as you became something more. The galaxy entered a new age. The warning beacons still pulsed their light across space, but now they carried a different message: "Welcome, seekers of wisdom. Earth awaits those who are ready to learn." For in the end, humanity's greatest achievement wasn't in becoming gods. It was in remaining human, even after they had transcended humanity itself. And that lesson, above all others, was worth preserving for eternity.